On this week's episode of Crowdfunding Nerds, we talk about preparing for conventions. We cover topics such as why origins, the layout of your booth, QR codes, payment processing, cosplaying, and even flyer handing out. Hope you enjoy this one. Let's get into it.
Game begin.
Let's go.
You have my bow.
Am I ad?
That's awesome.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another awesome episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. I am your host, Andrew Lowen, and I am joined as always by Sean. And oh my goodness, Rick is here again. Welcome.
What's going on? Why am I here?
You're a celebrity now. So yeah, now we this is I'm actually really glad you're here because you're a veteran convention attender, and we are going to be talking about, well, generally how to operate at a convention as a creator and publisher and, company that actually wants to get a lot out of a convention. And, you are pretty much the most professional convention attendee of all of us because you are the San Diego Comic-Con vet.
Well, not only a professional attendee, I've also ran many booths with my nerd group. So I'm also very experienced in running a booth at a convention as well.
That's fantastic. Yes. So, and where we kind of wanted to approach this topic was from the perspective of the convention attendee, the one that would approach you and what do they want from a creator? What would give them the greatest experience? What would give the creator or the publisher the greatest, whoever's, paying for a booth, the best results at the end of the day, and that kind of thing. And I am very steeped in this right now because we're about 2 weeks from Origins, which will be the biggest convention that I've ever personally attended for Deliverance. I've been to San Diego Comic-Con, so I haven't but anyway, for Deliverance in particular, definitely the biggest convention. And so maybe we'll talk about how I'm personally prepping, what I'm planning and why, and that kind of thing too. But I think that there's going to be a lot of advice for anybody that is planning on going, even if you're not going to be renting a booth or purchasing a booth space, how you can get the most out of conventions. I've done a lot of that too. So where do you guys want to start?
I want to start with why Origins as opposed to some other convention.
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are a number of really good conventions that are specifically board game space focused. Gen Con is the biggest one that is specifically board game stuff. The reason why not Gen Con is because Gen Con is specifically for selling stuff. If you want to sell a lot of units, go to Gen Con, and people have wads of cash.
If you can. There's a big waiting list, isn't there?
There is. Yes, there's a big waiting list. I think you can probably jump ahead on that waiting list if you go to, and there are other ways to kind of get around the waiting list. But if you spend more money, I'm sure that you can probably get in. But that's another reason that I personally didn't jump on Gen Con was because we're almost sold out of our stuff. I mean, we have far less than 100 games left, and we will not have enough stock to actually. We're going to sell out on like day 1 or day 2 if we're at Gen Con, because you'll sell hundreds, potentially 300 units of whatever it is that you bring, and of course your mileage may vary depending on how expensive it is and whatever. But I won't have stock next year either. So it doesn't make sense yet for me to start the whole Gen Con ball rolling as a vendor, because if you're going to do that, you should plan on every Gen Con from that point on, because then you can actually get more than a 10x10 booth. You can get, better space, earlier priority and other things like that, which is going to make a big difference. So I think that's one thing that's why not Gen Con. Now there are other conventions that are very large. So Origins is one of the larger conventions. It's kind of up there with PAX Unplugged, which is out of Philadelphia. Origins is in Columbus, Ohio. And then there are other conventions. They have other, like PAX, Penny Arcade Expo. It has other like East and West and North and whatever. But I think, the big three are Origins, Gen Con, and PAX Unplugged. And so what I decided to do was to go to the biggest convention I could that was really as much about sharing new stuff as it was selling stuff that you have. So Origins seemed like the perfect fit for me, being the largest convention that I could get to, that also was, and then one other thing that is excellent. It's part of the Gamma. So the Gamma Expo is in March, which is a really great convention that's industry focused. So retailers are walking around there, distributors are walking around there, and that kind of thing. But the Gamma organization, Game Manufacturing Association, they put on Origins, and so as a Gamma member, we got free tickets and other things like that, discounts, and so it was just another incentive to jump on Origins. And and I've got people in the area that will help me. A lot of my artist is in Ohio. My game developer is in Indiana, and I have a couple of others that are going to drive in. Some that will fly in. But yeah, so
it recently moved, right? It was originally based somewhere else.
I want to say Origins has always been the same area, but the Gamma trade show used to be in. Yeah, so I want to say they used to be in Reno, Nevada. That's right, for a lot of years, and then they changed and moved it to Kentucky. Kentucky is much more centrally located for everybody that would go to the convention. Reno, Nevada is obviously on the West Coast or close to it, and so the Kentucky Convention Center was so packed, and they're actually going to open up the rest of the space next year because of how successful that was. So definitely Midwest is where you want your conventions, or central US is where you want your conventions to be, for the greatest attendance. So but I think generally the East Coast and Midwest people tend to say, oh, this is it's easier to get to these places. There are a lot of people on the West Coast, but I don't know why it just seems like more board gamers are on the East Coast. Hard to explain. So, but yeah, so that's why Origins.
Worse weather, maybe.
Yeah, I guess so.
Inside more.
Yeah, we're gonna be inside the whole time anyway, and evidently there's a big concrete floor, so that should be fun to deal with. We're gonna do floor mats because it's mainly for everyone that stands in the booth all day for the 4 or 5 days that we're there.
Just as a side note, we're talking about flooring. Flooring apparently is a major expense at a convention, and even the big old San Diego International Comic Con stopped doing flooring in their aisles because of the cost. So now their flooring in the aisles is all just the cement. I think they still provide carpet though for the vendors, but they went from all carpet to just plain old concrete. It's easier to clean up too when people spill their nachos and hot dogs while looking at a cool game.
Yeah.
Sounds like you've got some experience there.
Yeah. Well, the way that it works for vendors, and it's funny because I called some of our clients. Chris Birch of Modifius is one of them. We had a conversation about how to properly prepare for a convention like this, and one of the things that every single one of the people I consulted with said to me was, buy a foam floor and throw it away afterward. Have it shipped directly to your hotel and throw it away afterward, because it is cheaper to throw it away and buy it and have it shipped to the next buy a new one and have it shipped to the next convention than to actually keep it and take it home with you. So which I actually was a little surprised about, but that's totally right. It's the actual volume, the volumetric size of that foam floor will cost you a lot more to transport it back from the convention and to the next one than just waiting and warehousing space and everything like that too. So It's
And
not
what's the
very
advantage of
environmentally
having
friendly.
a foam floor rather than just being the bare concrete?
Well, so after 5 days of just standing on concrete, I guess it really, really wrecks your knees and hips, and all your joints feel really bad. So there's definitely a reason to do that. I thought it would be really cool personally to do like a floor with, so like we have our big neoprene playmat, which has the cityscape on it. And, that would be pretty cool to print there, but then it would become an actual puzzle that we'd have to get right, So, it's, but generally it's for the exhibitors that are standing there all day. And actually, from what I've heard, because everything else is, everything is like this big steel floor, or I mean, concrete floor, the people that are attending will appreciate that too. They can actually walk in and stand on it. It'll be more comfortable. So.
Okay, Richard, this is a question I have for you. With your multiple years of convention attendance and your love of Disney theme parks, can you talk into fragrance? Is that something that you've seen? Because I imagine if we're creating booths and we're talking about the environment and flooring, is thinking about fragrance something that is done or should be done? Should you get some under air freshener or something?
So, well, usually it's the people that smell, not the booths. It's not a good smell, especially when they're crammed like sardines. However, that's an interesting idea. Scents would be actually pretty cool. Just to actually to bring people in. At our local, Andrew's very familiar with the local San Diego County Fair. It's pretty large. They do it there. However, at most conventions, they don't allow things that smoke or
Aerosols.
burn or so
Right. Indoor.
you do have to check the rules and regulations and contact your rep before you do something like that, because even I think diffusers, which are used a lot now, I think those aren't allowed at many of the indoor conventions, just because as a courtesy to your neighbors and whatnot, because they may not want to smell what you want them to smell. Neighboring booths.
You don't want to smell the turkey leg diffuser. I got an essential oil that smells exactly like a turkey leg, from San Diego County Fair.
But a nice little orange scent or pine scent might be nice.
Yeah,
to bring
seriously.
people in. However,
that's a really good point. Oh, go ahead, Rick.
I was just going to say the biggest thing that draws people into your booth is the visuals. When people are scanning the aisles and whatnot, their eyes will catch on something. If you got something crazy, cool, and branded, instead of just a plain old booth, their eyes are going to be caught on you, and that's what you want. And that's pretty much the first thing you need to do to market your booth, is to make sure that it is very, very visual, branded, and eye-catching.
Yeah. So that, what we're kind of getting into right now is what I teased a little bit earlier, which is the experience that you want to give to a convention attendee. And, what are they looking for? And I think that half of selling anything is just getting it in front of someone in a way that makes them ask, what's that? I think the phrase, what's that, sells half of the things on the internet, half of the things in person. Well, I mean, really all the things in person feels like, but it's responsible for about half of the sales that are made on the planet. That's what I think. What's that? So I remember my first experience with what's that, where somebody was like, "Hey, you need to do this." I don't know what it was, 15 years ago when I got into that multi-level marketing company, Market America. They well, technically it's a binary system, so whatever. If I have any Market America folks listening to this, I know it's binary, but you're still an MLM. What they did when I sold vitamins, they told us, put them out on your countertop instead of packing them away in a cupboard, because people will ask what that is, and then you'll be able to start a conversation about that stuff. So it's like, oh yeah, these are my vitamins, they help me, this and that. And sometimes people say, oh yeah, my neck hurts and I've had a bad back and I've been looking for vitamins and whatever. And it's the easiest thing, because you're not having to solicit them and say like, hey bud, do you want some vitamins? You know, like you don't have to do anything like that. If they're asking you, hey, what's that? And you're like, oh, it's my vitamins. I take them, every day and whatever. And then they will ask you more questions if they're interested. And if they're not, they won't, right? So it's at that point that you decide whether or not to be a pushy, proddy salesperson by being like, hey, dude, you should be taking vitamins too. If they weren't interested or if they didn't say anything, maybe they are, you don't know, but but I kind of take that lesson that I learned of the value of what's that to, of course, one other obvious example I'll mention, by the way, is the store shelf. If somebody finds your product on Target's shelf or Barnes & Noble or Walmart or a local game store, then that's an opportunity for them to ask, what's that? Take a look at the box, and maybe they buy it because they're actually absorbing information about your product just simply because it was there. They're absorbing by osmosis, and so I think that that's super powerful. So what you're talking about is, in essence, the making a giant billboard so that people ask, what's that? And want to investigate further. I think that is, I know a lot of people will probably say, yeah, I know I have to have a booth and it has to have visuals and that kind of thing. That's an obvious thing. But the obvious things are the things that you should do. I want to say, more people that I talk to, when I tell them the things that they should be doing, they will tell me, yeah, I know. Those are the most important things that you are not doing, the things that you should be doing. So this is me on this podcast telling you the obvious thing: get really awesome visuals for your booth. And it will make a huge difference. Even if you're going for, if you're not jumping on a booth right away and you're going to like the Gen Con first exposure playtest hall, which is one great way to get into Gen Con if you have an unpublished product. Or like Rick, you and I did back in 2018 at Kingdom Con. Like we went to an unpub event, like an unpublished game event, and shared Deliverance and or whatever. You can just go, or like I did at Dice Tower West. I went, it was the first Dice Tower West, and I just went and I sat down at a table and I set up my game and I put a little like a 3 foot tall by 2 foot wide banner stand on the table with Deliverance, some Deliverance art. And there were people that just walked up asking me, what's that? And we played some games and I got email lists or emails added to my list and that kind of thing. So visuals are so important. Also branding yourself too, like being a product of the product is what I call it. So I'm not going to be, all of my people, I'll say it in a positive way, all of my people that go to Deliverance, that work in the Deliverance booth, that volunteer their time or whatever, they're all going to be wearing a Deliverance t-shirt. And I think that that's really important. So we're going to have, it's just going to look like we're a team. And like, if you have a question, you'll know who to ask because you see the guys with the Deliverance merchandise on. Hopefully I see a bunch of people with Deliverance t-shirts that are not our staff because, those are our fans and they love wearing their merchandise out. So, but yeah, so that's the, I guess that's my spiel on that. But, Rick, what makes graphics appealing? Like what type of graphics do you want to have? There are like big, I guess we're kind of getting into the weeds a little bit with banner shapes and, like there are these, I think everything should be like 8 foot tall, right? Like you've got 8 foot tall by 10 foot wide or 8 foot wide banners. You've got 3 foot wide by 8 foot tall things. Usually you have curtains with like curtain rods with like black curtains behind them to separate booths, but not always. And you've got your booth area kind of marked out, on the ground in tape sometimes, or just like a little plus to say, hey, you go here. And then they kind of wing it. But what visuals are most interesting or most attractive that, in your experience? And then Sean,
so
you can jump on that one too.
I think the first two basics that every booth should have is, I believe, a tablecloth, because those aren't usually, if you get one provided by your booth, it's plain, and that's a great advertising opportunity, as well as your backdrop, like you're saying, the curtain behind you. First of all, those things I think are the most basic things you should have, period, to market your game, because that's the first thing people see. Because when they walk up to your booth, they're looking at the front of it. So your tablecloth with the banner on the front of the tablecloth, or tablecloth, and then of course your backdrop is very important. Also, you want to have now this stuff can get very expensive. It does add up. It's not cheap. But of course, if you're traveling, the small aluminum pop-up vertical banners are really cool, especially if you want to provide visuals that have, it's almost like a landing page. So you pretty much will have a banner. It's going to have some really cool artwork that features an aspect of your game or says your game, and then talks just briefly some touch points on there about what makes it special, unique, that would catch the person's attention and get them to ask you more questions. Especially like what you said, if you're doing a board game, you want to have a great tablecloth that advertises the game on the top. However, I would keep the actual top of the table. I'm sorry, I've been advertising the front. The top of the table, I would probably keep as plain as possible, or I would use it like you said. You said you were talking about you want to have the city of the Fallbrook as a backdrop. That might be cool to have on top of the table, and then place. Of course, you want to have pieces of your game and your game, your board game actually out there, so people, like you said, sort of like the pill thing, to get their attention and whatnot. And I know briefly, just as a side thing, you talked about having the flooring where you could have like you said, like the city of Fallbrook. Well, if you really want to go, if you really want the flooring and you're traveling and you can't afford, having custom pieces move like that, what you can do is you can get a custom printed fitted bed sheet, and have it printed on there and use that and just put it in your luggage and bring it with you. Or you could do usually your table guy who does your tablecloths can also make a custom thing that you could just put on the floor, and you can secure it with tape or Velcro is pretty famous these days or whatnot. But you want to have multiple layers. So like I said, the basic is the table and the backdrop. That's like the bare basics. Then you want pop-ups. You want, if you can, maybe little cardboard table displays that advertise things. You want to have like little things here and there that are different sizes, different shapes, that cover the different aspects to get to really bring in the eyes into your booth for visuals.
And then in terms of, I know, Richard, I want to kind of dive a little bit deeper into something you said. You said that on the actual table, it should be kind of minimalistic. I think it's very important. I think when you think of Apple stores, the word that doesn't come to mind is clutter. I think they're very intentional in having their displays be very crisp and clean. So it's probably very important that when you're designing your booth space, that it's free of clutter. I think it's very important that there isn't like your car keys kind of sitting there, which would be a security risk anyway. But I think it's very important that like your gear or your kit can't be seen. It's out of sight. Everything's very clean. You make it very intentional that the only thing that is displayed is your game. And even that, it's kind of organized very neatly. You don't have components kind of everywhere. I think creating that kind of decluttered space with a lot of empty space is just as important as the filling it with banners and images and things. Thinking about the negative space, so to speak, is also what you need to kind of be thinking about.
Yeah, I very much agree with that.
As I say, especially like for a board game, the two things I would recommend, first of all, is the game itself. I would also recommend maybe one or two small cardboard table standees on there just to focus on the game. But the only thing, like you said, the only thing you want on there is your game itself. You don't, like you said, you don't want anything else. A lot of people put their giveaways up there like stickers, and then all of a sudden it becomes a cluttered mess. There's one other optional thing that I would recommend is to have a tablet, a small tablet that would have either a lead magnet or just be a straight email collection, where you can offer like a part of the game, like say play online for free. Like if you're doing your lovely tabletop simulator or whatever, you can make a little screen on your tablet that says, hey, play for free on tabletop, give us your email. And then that would be a really good way to grab people's emails to further market them if they don't directly buy your game or whatnot at the convention.
Yeah, actually, I'll say that they're so my recommendation, I used to do the tablet thing. And also use my phone on a regular basis. If you've heard me talk about how I get emails from conventions before, a lot of the time I take my phone, open up the MailChimp app, show it to them where they can just punch in their email and they hand it back to me, and I hit subscribe for them. But I also, one thing that we're doing with this convention with Origins that's different, because you have to have the mental acuity or bandwidth, I guess, to constantly be aware of where that tablet is, because it's, like my iPad is whatever, a $500 thing that is so easy to steal. And actually, the larger conventions that you go, the larger the convention, the more people, the more that bad actors will take advantage of that, and stuff gets stolen on a regular basis. So I actually would say I would caution against a tablet unless it's something that you can have behind a booth that is sealed, so that nobody can walk behind the booth unless they actually work for you. That's one way to protect your stuff. But the tablet, I actually find, so what I plan on doing instead is using a QR code. So we're gonna have a piece of paper with a QR code on it, and like deliver and subscribe to the newsletter here or whatever. And it's going to be a huge QR code that fills almost the entire paper, and people will be able to scan it. And what I've heard, actually, so QR codes are getting bigger and bigger. They're definitely not a gimmick anymore. People know how to use them now. And whereas like 5 years ago, even the QR code was like avant-garde. It was like the thing, like, oh, this is the new fancy thing that nobody knows what the heck this is. But now they actually know. I scan this with my phone. You just whip out your phone, open up your camera, and then your camera tells you there's an internet link here. And you just, it's very common knowledge now, especially among convention attendees. But it's also a way, nobody's going to steal that piece of paper, right? So it's a way to kind of have something available that you don't have to point people to. So that, there will be a lot of the time at conventions, you'll have people that walk the hall and want to look at your booth without actually being solicited by you, because they want to know, what that is, or, what your stuff is, without, you know, hurting your feelings by telling you they're not interested. So they're going to look and decide if they're interested before they actually come in and talk to you. Oftentimes, depending on how introverted they are. And what I find actually at smaller conventions, or rather maybe like BGG Spring, BGG Con conventions, or like Dice Tower West, that are more meant for people to actually play games rather than buy, sell, Origins, I would say, is a big combination of both of those things. But the people that are looking to check out booths, they will walk like 20 feet away from your booth to look at what it is, and you'll see them again, and you'll see them a third time, and then the fourth time they actually come and talk to you because they're interested or whatever. They just needed some time and to figure out what it was and position in their mind and decide if it was something they wanted to learn more about or not. And so that's something that, if what we plan on doing, there's this little, like, kind of a pop-up that sits in the middle of the floor that you can just pull up, and it's like 5 feet tall or 4 feet tall, that has like zigzags going on like this, so all the way down, so it goes zigzag all the way down. And at the very top, you can put a piece of paper. On the other side, you can put a piece of paper. On the other side, etc. So you can have QR codes on one side facing one way and the other way. Then you can have a message below that facing one way and the other way. And it's something that people can passively look at without having to, and they can also just simply scan with their phone. And what I heard was, just in my consultations with others, that, in order to do things right, is definitely have one of those. Definitely have a QR code people can scan without talking to you, because you'll get tons of emails added to your list just simply by having that there. You can only talk to so many people at a time, and it's really easy to lose people. But if they can actually just take initiative and jump on your email list, then, and they intend to talk to you, but they just kind of run out of time, or they're like, oh, they're in the middle of a game, I'd really have to talk about something, but I'll go back later, and they end up not coming back later. You still ended up capturing their email address. So I think that the QR code on a stand of some kind, or on, maybe in one of your banners, is like really important. So that's how we plan on doing that.
I so hate QR codes, it's not even funny. But so here's the devil's advocate on that. It'll be interesting to see what your results are. But QR codes, the only time I use a QR code is if my TV forces me to scan it to get the app going. Otherwise, or back during COVID days, a lot of restaurants use QR codes for the menu because they didn't want to hand out menus, thinking people spread germs that way. So they made you scan a QR code and order on your phone, which was horrible too. But as for the tablet thing, really what I did there is a chance you may lose your tablet. However, what I've done in the past is I've taped and secured mine down. Also, tablets you can get you don't bring an iPad. You just get a cheap Android. You can get them as low as like $50. I've seen them as low as $40 on Amazon. You just need something that can that has Wi-Fi, and that you make a landing capture page, and then when they submit their email, it goes to your database on your mail system, and then so if it ever gets stolen or lost, there's no data on it to worry about. So tape it down and and use a cheap one for that. As for QR codes, like for me, like I said, I think if you made like an 8-foot QR code, it might catch my attention. Like if it's this humongous thing that's bigger than life, that's bigger than anything you've ever seen, I might be like, what's this? And maybe I'll scan it. But QR codes on table, a lot of times people ignore those. And like I said, you want to be proactive when you're advertising to people going by your booth. There are sometimes, if you're not, if you do passive things like that, it can work, but you really want to capture their attention. So you really want to direct them to things that cause them to do action. Like I said, I take a lot of pictures at conventions. And so even if I took a picture of a QR code, 90% of the pictures I take, I don't even go back and look at. So, and of course it'll get drowned in everything else that I've done. So to be honest, I don't think I would ever, go back to it unless that was the only way I can communicate with someone. There are bigger conventions. I don't know if this is at the one you're going to, where they have badge services where you can rent a scanner or an app where you pay to use an app where if a guest is interested in what you offer, you can scan their badge and then you can collect their email address that way. I don't know if that's at bigger conventions. I don't know if it's at the one you're going to, but that is an easy way to get someone just to be like, hey, I see you're interested. Can I just scan your badge real quick to send you an email on our stuff? Real easy to get their email. They don't have to type anything. They don't put anything in. You literally just go beep and you're done. And you have instant email address.
Sounds like San Diego Comic-Con awesomeness.
I don't
know if Origin's going to be so awesome.
Comic-Con doesn't do that anymore.
That sounds like Disney, like things they would do at Disney. Is that right?
I've done a lot of product conventions. So one of my jobs I did back in the day, I worked for a very large zoo. That probably just gave it away. And I would go to buyer conventions to look for things to put in the gift shops. And a lot of those buyer conventions did it that way, where you had a barcode on your badge, and if you were interested, they'd just scan your badge, and all of a sudden, a month later, you'd have more junk mail than you've ever seen in your life, because they'd also include mailing addresses and whatnot. But it worked, because all I'd be like, oh yeah, let me just scan your badge real quick. And the first year I did it, I was very naive. I'm like, okay, scan my badge everywhere. And that was, so it works. But yeah, man. You really want to, you want to get their information before they leave. No matter how you do it. Passive things like flyers or business cards. Like I said, I'm really interested to see how your QR code works. But to me, the goal is to get some kind of, either get them to buy or to get their contact information so you can convince them to buy in the future.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The active versus passive made a huge difference for me when it's like, a lot of people are like, oh, I need to get giveaways and other things like that so that they have my information and they can sign up for my email list, because they got a business card or a flyer that has my website and whatever. And those types of things go immediately into the trash. They get stuffed into a bag and never pulled out again, never focused on again. And so what I tried to do, and this was a very big win for me, was I tried to be very active in my, capturing of emails or things like that. So, Sean, what are your thoughts on all of this?
Well, one thing I'd like to cover is this concept of inviting people into your space. So I think it's very important when you think about your booth space that it's something that people can walk into, because you have these certain booths where people can't walk into them. It's like, and this could simply just be by the position you purchase. But the idea is that it's almost like a shop front where they can come up to your table and you kind of interface with them. And it's kind of like you want them to kind of cross the threshold and come into your space. And that's where you really get that experience. So I don't know if Richard, with all your convention experience, is that something that you've seen work better than just simply being maybe on like in an aisle and people just kind of come up to your space? I imagine it's easier to welcome people into that environment because they don't feel so cornered with someone standing directly in front of them.
Yeah, you got to be pretty much on top of guest service 24/7, or as if pretend you work at a prestigious I don't know, facility or hotel or something, and greeting people is your number one goal. Talking to them is your number one. Like you can't let someone walk by without saying hi. What's really funny is like maybe like the first like 2 hours of convention, all the vendors there are like, oh yeah, they're very interactive. They smile, they talk to people. It's a really good atmosphere. At the end of the day, and then the second day and the third day, they're like zombies. The longer they are stuck there, like you walk by their booth and you look at them, and sometimes I'll say hi to them, and they're just like scared. They're like zoned out, and that is rough, especially these longer conventions where you're there multiple days. So it is very important to be able to
think
like you said, invite people in.
Yeah. I was going to say, just a little aside that you mentioned, I think convention prep for the publisher, you've got to have water, you've got to have cough drops, you have to have snacks. And if you don't, you're just going to pour out what you have until you're empty. And then you're going to be running on empty the rest of the time. And that's happened to me before. When I've run conventions, or I've participated as a vendor, as a publisher. And I've also had experiences that were excellent because I decided to, I'm like, oh my goodness, I don't have water. I grabbed the $9 bottle of water from the hotel room, and I never regretted it. It's like, it was, that type of thing. But yeah, we actually plan on bringing cases of water from local convenience stores, and having snacks, having cough drops and whatnot. And I also think, for the love of all that is good, like, get off your phone, right? If you're a vendor, like you were saying, like, the guest service is number one. If you do not look like you want to talk to someone, if they see your forehead, or the shiny top of your head, if you have less hair, like me right now, then they're going to be much less likely to engage with you, because you don't look like you are in a place where you can be engaged with. People are rather, kind and considerate, especially of convention, booth people. And if it looks like you're busy, they won't interrupt you. And so you don't want to just do something because you're bored. I actually think this is one of the reasons that my upbringing was so good. Like, being an 80s baby, 90s made me. And in the 90s, my parents would still kick me outside, and I'd tell them I'm bored. And they'd be like, hi, bored, go outside, or whatever. Like, they don't care if I'm bored. Whereas now, I think that, my kids still say that they're bored. We don't actually have a lot of tech in the house that they can be playing on all the time, but it's so easy not to be bored now. And so when you're at a convention, it's super, we're all cyborgs, we all have this piece of technology that we use for navigating and everything like that. It's incredible, the power that we have in our hand all the time, with our cell phones. But the I think that the temptation is to occupy your downtime checking Facebook, checking whatever, Insta, checking anything, watching some video. You've got AirPods now, like wireless headsets that are not very, or that actually keep a charge for a really long time, and you can keep an earphone in at all times listening to whatever you want to listen to. You want to listen to, like, the Joe Rogan podcast or whatever, you can. I mean, it's just you have a lot of time that could be downtime as you're at a convention. And my I guess opinion on that is that you're there to get results. You're not there to pass the time. So you should also be active in the way that you present yourself rather than letting the convention happen to you and just taking whatever comes your way. Like you should be willing to sit in a chair with your hands folded in your lap just looking around.
That's
You
just
should
creepy.
think about, yeah, seriously. Well, you should, like
Gonna stare
walk
at
to the edge
you,
of your
look
booth
around.
and like turn your head and stare at someone with eyes wide open. I don't think so. But you should find things to do. Like, what can you do? Can you organize your boxes? Maybe, whatever. I mean, there are things that you can do to make yourself look busy. And as soon as somebody walks up and talks to you, then I used the word earlier, osmosis, like people will be attracted. If one person is getting a demo of your game, then other people will come and watch. And then before you know it, you're slam busy for the next hour. So you just have to kind of make it through the dry spells without, unintentionally killing the motivation of that one person that would have walked up and had a demo and caused all of that, snowball action to happen at your booth. So
yeah, that brings up the point, really important, which will really help with sales and conversion, is crew. If you ever go become a vendor at a convention, never, ever, ever, if possible, go by yourself.
Oh my
And
goodness!
it might now a small
it.
convention might be okay, but I wouldn't recommend it at all because you need someone. If you got an emergency or a bathroom break you need to do, who's going to cover you? So you need at least one person. If you're demoing a game, you need a dedicated person just for that because you want someone still to to be in front, be actively engaged with people who come up to the booth, and then still have someone who can explain the game and go with a few people on the side as well. In fact, you also want a crew because you want to go beyond your booth. So a couple of things that will really help your game out is if you can do a panel or a workshop regarding some aspect of your game that people would be interested. For example, Kickstarter panels are very popular right now. And of course, if you have had a successful Kickstarter like you've had, Andrew, a good panel, like if you're able to secure a panel at the convention talking about the steps you went through, people will get more engaged with you and who you are and your product. And then of course that'll bring in sales. The other thing is you want a person out there to demo your game at, because there's all these conventions always have game playing testing areas or just areas where you just play board games. And you want someone out there with your box, with your game, and be like, hey, you want to play with me? They don't even have to say they're with you or not. They just say, hey, I got this. Want to play this game with me? It looks pretty cool. I'll teach you how to play it. Oh, okay. And they go, hey, we got a booth. At the end, you can say, hey, there's a booth here if you're interested in buying it. But also, like we were talking about the thing where I was saying how people become zombies, and you want to really do a 2-hour shift type swapping of people. Like 2 hours, I think, is the max, and then let them go take a break and do something else. Like you don't want to be there for more than 2 hours at a time. Like I said, because you need to use the bathroom, you need to eat, and you just want to be a zombie on your phone. And I think 2 hours is a really good shift for people who are working your booth. And then so have you or whoever's with you each take turns doing 2 hours and then go play for 2 hours and just go back and forth and do shifts like that. That way you're refreshing, resting, clearing your head, enjoying the rest of the convention as well, because it's important to see what your competitors are doing, because you might walk around and be like, oh, that's a cool idea, I need to implement that next time I do a convention, or things like that. So this gives you the chance to be more excited when you're there in the booth, and to be able to interact better, as well as give yourself some me time.
Yeah, that's true. I kind of treat it like so the booth time. So the vendor hall opens for Origins opens at 10 a.m. and closes at 6 p.m. most of those days. I want to say Sunday. So it's closed on Wednesday, except for to the vendors that are setting things up. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it's open from 10 to 6, except Sunday it closes a little early. I want to say it closes at 4 o'clock. And so for those hours, you should definitely be manning the booth with multiple people, like you said. I plan, we'll see how it works out, but I plan on having a total of 6 people and 3 3 people in the booth at all times, my goal. And I'm generally planning on staying in the booth all the time. I have my I call them staff, but they're my my artist, they're contract workers. Adam, my game developer, they want to be in the booth all the time to see everyone, and they don't they it's like they don't even care about anything else at the convention. They just want to be there because that's where we get to hang out and everything too, and celebrate Deliverance, which most of the time happens from the isolation of their homes, as we're talking online. But so that's actually kind of cool, where people are very excited. But even still, we need to be able to have the freedom to send people off to the restroom, and to if somebody needs lunch, or maybe they can grab lunch for all of us and bring it back to the booth, or whatever. That type of thing is so essential. You just don't really even think about things like that until it's too late. One thing, actually, one technique I have is I will fill one of my pockets entirely with uh cough drops, and I will hand them out to anyone that wants one. And I have like a huge thing of cough drops that are, that where a stock is in my pocket and the rest is in, like a storage place. And if I ever need more, then I go get more. And there's like a one pocket that on my left that's eventually filled with wrappers, and one pocket on my right that's filled with full cough drops. And it has helped so much. I'm pretty much sucking on a cough drop all the time. And brushing your teeth is really important when you're eating cough drop, basically eating candy all day. But it's really good for your throat, if you're talking a lot. So one other thing I'll say, Sean, you mentioned the ability to walk into the booth versus the vendor style. I actually love the ability to walk into a booth. It just feels more inviting. Whereas the vendor style, shopkeeper style rather, is like, if I want to talk to you, then I will walk up, but I don't really know who you are, and I'm trying to look at your backdrop, your game, but I just feel like the where you can just walk in and look at something. It's so convention attendees, myself included, whenever I'm walking around, it's a lot easier just to walk into, like, you're meant to walk into booths. It's not like a weird thing. It's just a generally accepted thing that if a booth is open, you should walk into it and take a look and whatever. And those types of, and you won't be solicited hardcore, but you can be like a wallflower as you're watching someone else get a demo of a game, or, that kind of thing. And, I think that so what they call it is open corners. So however many open corners you have, that would be a corner of your booth is like opens to the floor, so that, there are, you can have a 10 by 10 booth, and you can have a corner booth that where one corner opens up to the actual floor. This is something where if you wanted to close it off, you'd have to have a table on the left and a table on the right, to kind of close it off. Whereas if you had just a table, a 10 by 10 booth in the middle of an aisle, you've got a vendor on your left and a vendor on your right, and the only way they can walk in is directly in front of you. So what I've decided to do for Origins is I have 2 open corners. I actually have a 10 by 20 sized booth. I have 2 open corners, which means it's like in a 4 by 4 grid, I only have somebody behind me, and I have just a dividing line of some kind at the back of my booth, and then my booth is entirely open. And so what we plan on doing is we plan on putting 2 tables, both with tablecloths, that will house demo games. And then we're going to have a table in the middle, like a tall, they call them tall boys, like a tall table that's like a 2-foot round table that's like bar height, where I can do quick demos. And then, or sell stuff, if I put a card reader out or whatever. And then we'll stock our games behind us, and we have our banners behind us. So and then so we're the way like kind of our layout will work. We have a central piece that's like a 10-foot wide by 8-foot tall banner of the box cover art of our expansion. Then on the left and right, we will have 2 banners on each the left and the right that feature characters, like big character art from the expansion. and then and that's kind of what's on the back wall. So that is kind of my effort to, number one, show people the awesomeness of our game, which is in the characters. The angel art is really incredible, so, as well as the box cover art is just really, really high quality and awesome looking, and immediately positions us. It's like, wow, this looks very different. That's kind of one of our hooks. Our art and our theme is a real hook. And then in the front, we'll have in the two corners, we're also going to have an 8-foot tall by 3-foot wide banner on the left and the right. One of them is going to be a character, and then the other one is going to be, Deliverance and the awards that we've been nominated for and received and whatnot. So hopefully that, and if we need to adjust the layout, we can, but that's my goal, is to have those folks that want to see what it is from a distance be able to clearly identify what it is and the awesomeness, and then everybody that is interested in coming to look is able to walk right into our booth and start observing a game, or they can ask questions and we can show them very quickly. And I think it might be worthwhile to discuss like a plan for your booth, like the quick explainer leading to a 15-minute demo, which leads to a 1 or 2 hour, game. But I'll go ahead and let it rest there, and then we can talk more, and I can come back to that.
One of the things you mentioned, which I forgot to bring up, is you talked about having like a bar height table or a bar table or walk up table. Those are really awesome for demos, especially if you can separate it from like sort of like the rest of your booth, put it sort of to the side. To have a demo table, you want like a small. I always like the ones that are round, that are like, for like 2 people or 3 people. They're not too big. Those work really well because when someone looks at it, it's not like it's not too much to look at. Like it's a small table. And when you do demos, the idea of doing a game demo is not to show how to play the whole game. You really just want to take a really cool aspect of your game, throw it together, and just do like a quick thing. So for example, for Deliverance, I would literally take maybe one of the tiles down of the board game. I'd put like one basic angel down that they can play, and I'd put a couple, 1 or 2 bad guys, demons and whatnot, and then I would just literally say, hey, let's play real quick. Let me show you how this works. And then they can start playing immediately. There's not much to it because you're saying, oh yeah, it's your turn. Go ahead and choose, roll your dice, choose your action. And then you show them how they roll the dice for the enemy and how the enemy does the action. It's just a real quick skirmish to get them into it. Also on that aspect of doing demos and selling your game, you want to always, it's always, I don't know if you've ever heard this, but everybody at the convention has a convention special. That is it. It's always called, hey, we have a convention special. Let me tell you what, and you want to make it, you want to add scarcity, you want to add value to whatever you're giving to the people that are there. So for example, for Deliverance, I know Andrew is short on copies. So what I would do if I was running the convention and I was out there, but since Andrew did not invite me, I'm going to stay over here on the West Coast, Andrew. I would literally pull all the product off the website and say it's temporary out of stock or sold out. And at the convention say, hey, you know what? This is a convention special for this price. And we are only selling it right now this week at the convention because our inventory is low. So you can't buy it online. You can only buy it here and at the convention this week. I think that would be a great add-on.
Sold out everywhere else. That's what will happen.
If you had some way to display your inventory or your stocks every time you made a purchase, the counter would go down. That would be
well.
Cool.
I can actually. That's my plan, is to actually have a wall of games. So I want to say 63 units left right now in our U.S. warehouse. We're going to bring all of those games, however many I have left, in 2 weeks' time. We're going to bring all of them, and that's the only place you can get it anymore. It's all sold out everywhere else. You can get on the secondary market. Maybe you'll have to pay more, but yeah. So that's the plan, and so yeah, we're definitely going to do that. And then in addition, actually, this kind of goes back into the experience. So what I want to do is I want to not only sell games. So there are really 3 different things that I am planning on doing. Number one, we definitely want more people to know about the expansion that is coming to Kickstarter, and in general, Deliverance, as a game. Even though we already went to Kickstarter, we're going to reprint the game, and people will have the opportunity to back the actual game and the expansion and all the other stuff if they want. But what I find is really, really important. So they can get to know the game, and jump on the email list. They can also buy the game, which will, of course, be great. We'll actually be able to make our money back from the convention and then some. If we sell through all our stock, and of course, we won't have to transport it all back, which will be nice. But the awesome thing that I really plan on, or that I really want to do in addition, is to celebrate Deliverance with the current fans of Deliverance. So what I want to do now, in addition, my artist is going to be there. We've got people that will sign games, and along with myself, and that'll be cool. But I'm going to give away we do this thing that we release at once a quarter. We release a free scenario PDF that everybody that owns Deliverance can just download for free and play. And it's every scenario has unique victory conditions and unique bosses, and it's super fun. But we will have a physical version that's at the convention that anybody that owns the game gets one for free, and anybody that buys the game gets one included. So that's our convention special. It comes with a free limited exclusive physical scenario pack. And we'll only print like 100 of them, and so they're gone when they're gone. We've got 60 games roughly, let's say, and then 100 of these, so we can have 40 of our fans come up, and then we can have 60 games that are actually sold. I'm sure that we'll get rid of those scenario packs in some way, but over the course of the convention. But it was a little thing that I think adds extra value just for being a fan of Deliverance. I want you to come up and I want you to see the expansion and be excited about that. But also I want them to be rewarded for just being a fan and owning the game and supporting.
So talking about selling, I want to talk about or get into payment reception. How are you planning to take payments? Are you going to take cash? Is there advantages to taking cash, or kind of, I see cash more as a liability, I think, in those kind of environments. Is there a certain payment processor that you're using, or you direct people to your website to just purchase via your website, or you take something like cryptocurrency, because it seems like one of the easiest ways to get cash, because there's no very low payment processing fees, and that can be a good alternative. I don't know if Richard, if you've ever seen people use crypto as a type of payment in conventions, but maybe Andrew, to just talk a little bit about how you plan on taking receiving payments. Are you going to accept cash?
Yeah. So we're going to take payment in 3 different ways. First way is cash. I won't turn it down. I'm hard to kill. And so I don't know if we're going to do like one of those fanny packs that, is knife resistant or what, or just try to pocket stuff. I mean, there's a lot of eventually, my pockets will be brimming with cash. So it's one of those things that I
bring those commando pants.
Yeah, I guess. But we will take cash. We will have a way to store it. And then we'll get rid of it each day. We'll put it in like the safe in the room or something like that. Just so that we don't have to carry it around with us. But we won't be making change or anything like that. It's just going to be $100 for the game or something like that. Then we'll also have a card reader. So I have a Stripe account. I got 2 card readers. You can so I'll probably just need 1, but I'm bringing 2 just in case. Stripe has integration with third-party apps that you can use to take payments, and so it'll be right there on my phone with a Stripe card reader. And then the third way we'll take is like PayPal, Venmo type things, where people are like, okay, what's your PayPal info or what's your Venmo? And I can just say, oh yeah, you received payment. The thing I think that can be difficult when the whole convention, just tons of people on their phones in a really tight spot. It's like if you've ever been to a grocery store during rush hour and tried to turn on a song for your playlist or something, it's just really difficult because everybody's using that internet bandwidth. And so those will be the 3 ways that we take payment. The Stripe with an actual card reader is a new thing for me. Never done that before, but I think
those could be quite costly, can't they? I know when I've looked into those, it's quite cost
Yeah, it was. I want to say it was like $100. So it was $60. It was like $150 for 2 readers. But you're generally only paying the normal percentages that you would pay if somebody were to, let's say, purchase on your website. They're purchasing with
2%.
a card that is not. Yeah, so like 3 up to, if it's an international card, it could be like 5% or 5.5%, which is very high. But in person, when you swipe or scan, it's less likely to be fraudulent. So you'll actually get a better rate in person if you can swipe or tap or insert the chip, right? So inserting the chip or tapping, those are more security, or I guess more fraud resistant. And so we could have the same transaction that we would have had to pay 3% for on a website, we would have paid only whatever 2% for in person. So just using random numbers I made up out of my head, but it's generally kind of like that. So it's more a matter of somebody needs to have it and have it integrated with the phone that has battery, and all of that. And there are some ways, some people are like, all right, I'm bringing $500, and when I spend that, it's gone, and they only have cash, and that's a part of their ritual, their discipline of how to not, ruin anyway. So when you say, oh, we only take cards, they'll be sad, they'll be sad panda. And if you say, oh no, we only take cash, well, then they'll be sad also, for the others. And then when that guy spends $500 and really, really, really wants one more thing, then he'll whip out his card and be like, okay, I'll do it. You better be able to accept both. So not exactly sure how I will be dealing with cash as far as like change and whatnot. Definitely not going to be, giving some, coins in exchange, but so I, have to figure that out.
If you can, but you just mentioned it, accept both cash and card. Card will probably be now your number one sales. Everyone's pretty much card. Not many people carry cash around, like except for at conventions or when they have, like you said, special spending budgets. I carry cash, and I feel like I'm the only one that does it these days, at least when I go shopping. Mm-hmm. But at conventions, there's more cash going on. Also, another vendor that a lot of financial vendor that a lot of the vendors at the convention use is Square. Square is very, very common because it has a very low get in. Their device, they have like little things you just attach to your phone to swipe cards and read them, and those are a lot cheaper. But it's not as integrated as something like Stripe would be. So that's something you may want to look at. I do have, I'm assuming we're running out of time. This is going pretty long, but I do have a challenge for Andrew at this convention. Just for fun, just to see if he can do it or even try. I think this would be interesting. I don't know if the logistics will allow you to do this or not, Andrew. But now you are talking about your expansion. Do you know what the cost will be on that expansion at this time?
I am planning on $69 for the deluxe cost.
So my idea, because like you said, you're going to have people that are going to come up to your booth and have already purchased the game. Now, you said you are going to have some things for them, but I think what would be really cool is if you do an early bird convention special to go ahead and prepay for that expansion.
Oh, snap. Well, see, that's kind of awesome. But if we're releasing direct to retail, that'd be really cool. But the part of the goal of Kickstarter, I need to raise as much money as possible on the Kickstarter platform, because that's what people will see later. In fact, it's something that we deal with all the time. Like, we've had clients that are like, hey, somebody wants to pay $10,000 for that really epic pledge level, but I don't want to pay 5% to Kickstarter and that kind of thing. Can I take payment via PayPal or whatever, and or check? For sometimes people that they know just want to deal with checks, and that's something that it's possible. I think it might actually be against Kickstarter's terms. I'm not totally I'm a little rusty on that particular thing, but I always tell people, well, it looks really good as far as momentum when that hits the actual Kickstarter campaign. And so that's that it's like a pro and con. Like, you can do it and claim the money early, and that's actually money that you were able to earn for the expansion that's like in the bank guaranteed. But then alternatively, it doesn't add momentum when the Kickstarter, launches and to unlock stretch goals and other things like that. So that's something that I'll definitely think about, but it might not be a good idea for somebody going to Kickstarter.
I agree with that. I think though, the idea is to get the hardcore people that are going to buy it anyway. And I don't think you're going to have, I mean, if you're just going to that one convention, I don't think it's going to be like, you're going to have a crazy difference in sales because of that on Kickstarter. But I think that'd be a real easy sale for you to do. And that would get them really excited.
That are like, I never want to support Kickstarter in my life. So, if I can give you money right now, can you make sure I get an expansion? And then I will probably say yes. Like, let me write a note in my phone,
don't forget.
yeah. Cause it's either that or no money, right? Like they're like, I will back the Kickstarter expansion right now, but I don't want to pay Kickstarter. So, will you, make a special exception for me? And it's like, yes. How will I do that? I'll figure it out, if that ever happens. But we just need to make sure that those people actually get their reward when the time comes, right? So but yeah. So, and once the pledge manager hits, you're able to add people manually and that kind of thing. But before that, it's can be kind of dicey. So Sean, do you have anything else you wanted to add?
Maybe finally, quickly, Richard, since you are Kingpin Richard, master of disguise and cosplaying, how valuable is cosplaying, dressing up? Would you recommend it? Is it something that you should get someone to do uniquely, or do maybe one day, or is it even worth doing? What's sort of your experience with cosplaying? I imagine it would bring some attention to your booth, if nothing else.
I have actually seen a company do this where they've actually hired these beautiful, beautiful men and women to wear these humongous angelic outfits that were just elaborate. And that flocked people in like crazy. Now, the majority of people just want to take a picture and run, so they may not know, but they were out there advertising. I don't remember what they were advertising, but they had little flyers they would hand out and stuff when they're doing photos and stuff. So that can be an aspect that can work. When you dress up, if the convention is that kind of convention where it allows you to dress up and things like that, I think it's just to do it for fun. Because people will walk by your booth and be like, oh, that's that's cool. They're into what they're doing. So I can see from that aspect. It really depends on, like, I would say, most of the time you maybe want just one person, and they'd be more like the mascot of your booth. Like, you don't want your demo guy, unless it's like not like elaborate. You don't want your demo guy who's trying to explain how to play the game to be
sweating
crazy thing, because people
8-foot paper mache angel wings and
they're and of course people want to take pictures and it's going to interrupt the demo. So I mean, the demo guy, pretty much your demo guy is your salesman. Like, literally, like, you want your best salesman as the demo guy, because he's going to be, hey, come on, he's going to get people to come over and try it. He's going to do a quick little skirmish for your game, and then he's going to be the one that's going to be like, hey, if you want to try the whole game for free, let me get you on our online platform. Let me get you your email real quick. We'll put you in so you can get the link for that. Or if you want, you can buy the game right now. We only have it at the convention. It's on a special. We're out of stock online, and we don't know when we're going to get it back. So this is the opportunity for you to buy it. So you really want your salesperson to be a salesperson, but your other people can dress up. But if you can do something crazy, then you'll definitely kill it. But you gotta be crazy. You can't.
I remember going to BlizzCon. Like, first of all, Disneyland does this, right? Like, that's like part of the hallmarks of Disneyland is like you'll get all the Disney princesses, and oh, there's Gaston over there. Oh, there's Goofy, right? And it makes kids really happy. But I think as an adult going to BlizzCon, StarCraft Ghost was like, there was a ghost walking around, and it was like, dang, that's awesome. And then there are others that are like clearly paid actresses to wear these costumes that are really awesome, and it's like, it's just really incredible. It levels up the experience like crazy. And I absolutely think, every once in a while I'll tell my brother-in-law, like, he's Gabriel in our game, and right now he's actually pretty in shape. He's pretty shredded. Like, you could see all 6 of his abs and stuff. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna get you some big paper mache angel wings. You're gonna have to come to a convention with me, because he's the actual guy, right?
Yeah, you're
And
such a good cosplayer. Whoa.
yeah. But yeah, so I think the extra effort of getting a costume made and having somebody, it has to be fitted to someone and whatnot. But that is pretty cool. So I know that would be a lot of fun if we could do that. When I have like a 40 by 40 booth, then maybe, or like a 20 by 30 or whatever, like these bigger companies. I think that's like at that point it's not so much about making your money back from selling stuff, but it's about branding and like, did you have fun? What was one of the most memorable things for everybody at a convention is like the Warhammer booth always has a giant space marine that you take a picture with or whatever. So if I could have at least like a giant statue of Michael standing over the devil with his spear or with his sword or whatever, like that's something people would take a picture of. It's just like, how would I get it there? Yeah, I don't know. But
just crushing the
how would I
Leviathan
get
under
it
his
made?
foot. That'd be cool.
Yes. So but yeah, I think that's really fun advice. And again, back to kind of wrap everything and circle back to the beginning, it's all about the experience that you're giving the people that come. And I said I would go over this plan, but when somebody goes to your booth, you should have like a 2-minute pitch, like a 1-minute maybe, just quick. Oh yeah, Deliverance is a game where you control angels and you fight against demons in this town of Fallbrook, and you can tell them a little bit about what happens there. Would you like me to share with you a little bit about how it plays? And they say yes. You ask them a yes or no question that allows them to stop and say, oh, no, I'll just check out other things. I'll just watch this demo or whatever. That's fine. But if they want more information, you can give them a 15-minute demo at that Tallboy table, right? And that's kind of my plan. I want to give people a quick demo at the Tallboy table and then get people from there. My goal would be to get people to sign up for a 1 or 2 hour playthrough of a particular mission. And we're going to have specific missions that like we've got our Q2 free scenario PDF where we've got a new boss that we're fighting and everything. And that's going to be a lot of fun. So that should be really interesting for players. And they can set, if they're busy, but they want to do it, they can set a time in the future. It's like, okay, I will come back tomorrow at 1 p.m. and demo that mission. And so that's kind of the way that I intend to do it. Some people will be able to just sit down right then. Other people will not. And you can also do this if you have a small booth. I have 2 tables that are going to be running those 1 to 2 hour games. But if you, let's say, had a 10 by 10 booth, what you can do is you can have somebody that is in, that has games set up so that people can go to that location. So you can tell people that are, looking to play your game, you can have somebody running demos in the whatever first exposure playtest hall or in the whatever demo hall that there is. And they can sign up, like Origins has an app that you can use to kind of schedule games and whatnot. And that's a great way to do it too. So we're actually going to have our games in the booth, but I thought I would mention that. What you don't want to do is you don't want to keep people's attention when they're giving you all the signs that they need to leave, and you're keeping them anyway. You don't want to be ignorant of others. And so the way that I do that, I actually have very little, what is it called? Very little ability to actually read people. So I just think I'm the best talker and the most entertaining and whatever. And there are many others that are just like, please, like, get me out of here. I don't want this guy to bring up another topic. I have to do a thing, or I have to use the restroom, or I'm hungry, or whatever, right? And so the way that I have learned to adapt is through this small plan, like the 2-minute, 10-minute, or 15-minute demo. So you've got the 2-minute pitch, the 10, 15-minute demo, and then the 1 to 2 hour actual playthrough. And you give people the ability to say, oh, thanks. Yeah, no, I'll just, that's enough for now, but we have to go here. And you allow people to bow out gracefully, and then they have a better experience and you will have a better experience because they'll come back. A lot of the time those people come back. They're like, yeah, I would love to do this. But if you took 10 minutes extra of their time because they're too nice to tell you to buzz off of that, they, all can think about is food right now, they're probably not going to come back. And you know, even that you kind of talked yourself out of a sale, you know, in that way. So anyway, I think that's it for now.
I've got one last little tip.
Go ahead,
I'll
Sean.
squeeze in. So it's just maybe going back to the cosplay thing, you could probably have someone using cosplay, you know, kind of walk around and handing out flyers to bring people to your booth. And I found that from, you know, someone who's handed out a lot of flyers in his day, simply asking, did you get one of these, is sort of the good thing to say when handing out a flyer, because it's like, if they say no, it's like, oh, here we go. If they say yes, well, then they've already received one. So that's a good little kind of expression to say when they're giving out flyers.
That's awesome. Yeah, people love to say no. So if did you get one of these? No.
Here we go.
They get one.
There we go.
Sucker. You know, now you get a flyer. All right. So Rick, you want to real Richard, non-robot Richard? Do you want to send us on out?
Sure. Also, one last thing, one last tip: leave a bottle of melatonin out on your table. That way, when people ask, you say, "This game is so exciting, you're going to need this afterwards." There you go.
It'll probably get stolen.
And that's all the time we have for this week's episode of Crowdfunding Nerds. Visit Deliverance at Origins on June 19th to 23rd, 2024 at booth number 745 and say the Kingpin sent you, and you will know. And with that said, if you enjoyed this episode and would like to listen to others, visit us at crowdfundingnerds.com and you can view all of our exciting 180 plus episodes, as well as our great Facebook group at Crowdfunding Nerds Community. It's a private group. So make sure you hit the join button, answer the questions, and you'll meet some exciting other game makers out there who have great and vast knowledge about getting yourself crowdfunded and going beyond. Because that's where we're at now. Once you get started, you want to go beyond and keep going. So with that said, stay cool because it's hot out there right now. Stay classy. And as always, stay nerdy.